Welcome to Ask AI, the podcast that brings you insightful interviews and news from the world of Canadian artificial intelligence. This episode is sponsored by Microsoft Canada. Microsoft is committed to building trusted and responsible AI systems. To learn more, go to microsoft.com/AI and check out their free AI business school to start building intelligence into your solutions today. We're also sponsored by Cinci, the global leader in data fabric technology. Visit cinci.com to learn how to eliminate integration and turbocharge your AI transformation.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Ask AI podcast. I'm your host here, Jackson Kahn. Thank you so much to you and all our listeners. We've had a great response so far to our third series, which is the first time that we've been sponsored by Microsoft as well as Cinci. If you haven't already, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and you'll get notifications when we post new episodes of the podcast. Also, this is for you too. We'd love to get your questions or comments to share with our AI experts that we're featuring. We'll actually put those questions on air. You can reach us or tweet us at askai.org or email us at info@askai.org. Just remember we're on LinkedIn, and we'll keep track of any questions and comments that come in. Do our best to put those on the air. Also, too, if you have any online events, new projects in the AI space, or calls for volunteers, whatever you got going on, let us know. We're happy to share those on the podcast as well. I wanted to give a shout out to our partner, the Toronto Machine Learning Society. They've got their upcoming conference in November from the 16th to the 19th. If you go to torontomachineLearning.com and put in our promo code AskAI, you'll get a little bit off that ticket. You should definitely check it out. Big virtual summit with 60 plus speakers. Highly recommend that and encourage you to check it out. So without further ado, today we welcome Naysan Saran to the podcast, and we're so happy to have you.
Hi, Jackson. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And do you want to just give our audience a brief introduction on yourself?
Yes, of course. So my name is Naysan. I'm the co-founder of a startup called CannForecast. And what we do is we leverage machine learning to help municipalities and governments now make better decisions related to water.
Fantastic. And from what I read up about you, I know you've done everything from won hackathon challenges, and you're already partnered with institutes in Montreal, such as Mila, which of course any follower of AI in Canada will know. And I notice you already have several municipal partnerships as well. Can you tell us more about your journey into artificial intelligence and what you studied and how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is computer engineering, and I graduated 2012, I think. Then I went to work for Environment Canada. I was a scientific programmer then. And I had a side passion for mathematics since I was 16 years old. And so decided to take part-time math courses at McGill. So that was my nights and weekends. And eventually, you do computer science, you do math, and AI is kind of the obvious mix of these two disciplines. So when I realized that machine learning was becoming something of an interesting trend, I decided that this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my career. And it turns out that in 2016, the aqua hacking competition launched in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for innovators, people from all sorts of backgrounds to come together and to find innovative solutions related to water. And I jumped in because it was summer and I didn't have, so I had my work, but I didn't have school on nights and weekends. So this is what I did instead. And we ended up developing the first version of what has become InfoBaignade or IntelliSwim, our solution to predict beach water quality. That's how we started. We won the aqua hacking in 2016, and the city of Montreal was actually very interested by our solution, and that's how we got our first contract with them.
That is so cool. So interesting how you're able to so quickly move on into your startup to win those challenges and to develop such a complex piece of work. I know you also had mentioned to me when we were chatting before, there's a particular book, A Tour of the Calculus, which changed your life. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So I was 16. So I was pretty young, and I went to the library to just pick a book and expand horizons, I would say.
All right.
And I ran across a tour of calculus, and it was a math book, and how interesting can a math book be? But I still got it, and it just changed my entire vision of what the subject was. So for those who are interested, calculus was cool. I don't know if I would say invented or discovered, by both Newton and Leibniz at the same time in history, and they weren't aware of each other's work. So it's one of these things that you don't really know if these mathematical objects and concepts, they're just out there as real as you and I, and we just don't see them because they're not in our 3D measurable reality. And the whole plot of the book, because it's written like a movie, really, it's how these two people who have so much different personalities. So Newton is the guy who he was very secretive. He didn't like to talk to people. He didn't have many friends. And so you can imagine him in his office and he doesn't want to be disturbed and he's working on his calculus stuff. And you have Leibniz on the other end, who's a guy apparently who was a little fat, chubby. He liked to eat, he liked to party.
My man.
Yeah. And that guy happens to discover the same mathematical concepts at the same time, and how these two concepts were going to merge to become the basis for pretty much all of your calculus curriculum at school and everything else from rockets to how AI is based on calculus.
It all comes back to the basics, right? I feel sorry for poor Newton being showed up. But Leibniz, yeah, I know very little. All I can remember is high school calculus. But that's so interesting how that book ended up changing your life, and sort of the trajectories there shaped your understanding of maybe where you wanted to focus. Was there something, though, I want to push you on that a little bit, like was there something in particular about artificial intelligence and bridging those things together that really attracted you? Was it the possibility of it, or was it the actual construction of it? Like, where did you know where you wanted to go with it from a young age?
Not for a young age, though. I was more into computer science and math as separate fields.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was doing my math courses at McGill, at some point, I think it was somewhere in 2014 or 2015, that I came across an article that was explaining one of the optimization techniques for neural networks called gradient descent.
Mm-hmm.
And the article had the equations there. And so I decided, okay, I have some time in front of me. So I pulled off like a sheet of paper and my pencil, and I tried to work the equations. And it hit me that I understand what's going on. And so all of a sudden, it just opened that entire possibility that, hey, maybe this is the mix, the perfect mix that I've been looking for. So if you can code the algorithm and you can also do the math, then you've got the skill sets to do it, right? That's how I decided to merge my passions together.
Very, very cool. And in terms of the actual company, how did that come about? I know you mentioned the aqua hacking challenge, but wondering very specifically, how did you and your co-founder get started?
Yeah, so that's another interesting story. So I was working at Environment Canada, and one of my colleagues came to our office and said that, hey, there is this very nice competition called aqua hacking. Do you guys want to participate in? So I said yes. And then...
Fair enough. Once you go.
Yeah, why not? And at the same time, so my co-founder was finishing his PhD in water quality. So when he arrived, he had all these notions of the reality of what's going on within water bodies in North America. And he explained to us that municipalities like Montreal, some very big municipalities out there in North America, these municipalities, because they've been built earlier into the century, you have combined sewer overflows. So wastewater and rainwater go into the same wastewater pipe, which goes into the water treatment sanitation plant. But that sanitation system has a maximum inflow because of the way it's been engineered.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have episodes of heavy rainfall, what happens is that all of that water that comes from the sky is blended with regular raw sewage, and the inflow becomes too much, and it's going to compromise the system, the wastewater treatment system. So in order to protect the wastewater treatment plant, what the cities have to do, and they have to do it because of the laws of physics, basically, is that they have to let some of that raw sewage combined with water into our rivers, into our lakes. And that is untreated sewage. And that's what we call combined sewer overflows. And this is causing actually a tremendous spike in the concentration of E. coli bacteria in the water. And E. coli is, as you probably know, responsible for a lot of diseases in humans. And this is what we're trying to predict when we predict water quality. So we use data from temperature, we use data from tides, but we also use data from sewage overflows from the municipalities that track them, like the city of Montreal, and also data from the predictions of how much rain there's going to be in the next few hours.
That's remarkable. I mean, obviously solving a critical problem, and it sounds like pulling from a number of different data sources. I'm so interested by how you targeted this problem and how you decided to work on it. Like, because there has been some tracking on this for years. For example, that water is coming from certain sources. If it gets to a certain point, as you said, there may be an issue or it may start to get stagnant, if I'm correct. Is that correct or no?
Yes, so it depends. And this would be the perfect area for my co-founder, but I'm going to do my best. So, Nico,
Okay.
if saying stuff that it's not exactly as accurate as you would have said it, sorry. That's for him.
Fair enough.
So the way it would basically work is in a river. So Montreal's beaches are located in the St. Lawrence River.
Mm-hmm.
So in a river, you don't really have stagnant water. The contamination is going to come out of the sewer overflows and it's going to pass within a couple of hours. So what you really want to be able to predict is that window of non-opportunity where you really don't want your citizens to be bathing inside water that's contaminated with
course.
sewage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to predict with beaches that are close to rivers. And for lakes, then obviously you have stagnant water, and that's a different process.
Gotcha. And then ultimately, why did you decide to use AI specifically to solve this problem where you're not able to do it with rules-based logic?
So for the rules-based logic to work, you got to know what sets of variables and what combination of variables is going to make the water contaminated and what combination of variables is going to make the water safe for swimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the best way to identify that combination is going to be through machine learning, because you're going to put your data in a certain format and you can use an algorithm that's called a decision tree, which is one of the simplest that you can start with. And this algorithm is going to output the best set of rules that's going to influence opening or closing your beach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so this is actually how we started. But once we had our first decision tree, we realized that you could use a slightly more complex algorithm that was going to be better fitted to identify that window of opportunity, because a rule-based algorithm can tell you when you have to open and close the beach, but it's not going to tell you for how long, for instance.
Gotcha. And in general, like, I understand you have two different products.
Yes.
Do you use AI in both those products, or are you only doing it for one? How might it work differently? I'd love to, maybe if you could break those down.
Yes, we use AI for both of those products, but it's not the same type of AI. So for IntelliSwim, we use supervised learning methods.
Just before we go in, could you broadly describe those two different products?
Yes, of course. So we have two sets of products. One of them is IntelliSwim, and it's a solution that helps municipalities that have urban beaches know when they have to close the beach and when they have to open it proactively. Because the problem with traditional sampling is that you take the water sample, you have to send it to the lab, then you have to wait 24 hours to get the results. And by the next morning, when you know that the water was contaminated, it's too late because you had a bunch of people who were swimming in that contaminated water and you didn't have the results. So what we do with IntelliSwim is we help municipalities know right now and even a few hours into the future what's the status of their water quality, so they can close and open the beaches before people get sick. And the second product that we have is called IntelliPipes. So what IntelliPipes does is it takes the whole history of the water network of a given municipality. So all of the pipes, where they're located, what material they have, how many breaks they have in the past. And what they're going to do is that IntelliPipes is going to run that through a machine learning algorithm and identify which ones are more likely to break and which ones have to be listened to for potential breaks right now.
Very, very interesting. And which priority did you develop those products in? Like, what was the greater need, or which one's growing faster?
The history of the product development of IntelliSwim or IntelliPipes is pretty interesting. So IntelliSwim was developed thanks to the city of Montreal. After the aqua hacking competition, we had a first preliminary version that was already safer for public health. And that's why the city of Montreal was interested in our methodology. So they were the ones who really helped us fine-tune IntelliSwim. And we've worked with them for the first, I would say, 6 months of the company. It was just us going to their offices, calling them, trying to understand better the data sets. And once the first contract with IntelliSwim was done, they were very satisfied with the quality of our work. And so they were nice enough to introduce us to their colleagues at the drinking water department of the city of Montreal. So our first customers were at the wastewater department. And the people from the drinking water department, the manager over there was very visionary. He said, let's see if we can use AI to predict breaks. And we said, okay, we're going to do our best. That's how IntelliPipes was born.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's cool. It's so interesting to see how just interactions like that can turn into an amazing AI product.
Yeah.
That's serving someone.
And for those things, especially for people like me, for instance, with a more technical background, we really need the help of our customers to explain to us all the details of how the engineering, the actual systems engineering works. So what happens when the water gets below 4 degrees Celsius in the network? And these are all things that we can incorporate in the algorithms and make them even better.
Yeah, and I'd love to even hear a bit more about the actual problem itself. Like, how big is this problem? Like, is there a certain amount of volume of water or wastewater that's kind of coming along? Or like, what's the actual target?
It's huge. It's huge. So I'm going to give you the IntelliPipes number. So in Canada, you're at 30% of the drinking water that's lost within the system before it reaches you. This is all because of leaks, of cracks, because a lot of municipalities in North America, they have pipes that are, I would say the average age is 60, 70 years old. So they're all starting to break, and it's all potable water that's being lost before it reaches you. And it's not only a problem of wasting water, because before that treated water is lost, you have pumps that have to pump that water. So there's a lot of energy and electricity that is lost as well.
Wow, very interesting. That's huge. And then I guess, are there water mains that are breaking on a regular basis?
Yeah. The average in Montreal, I think it's getting lower. The city's been doing a great job, but the average, I think the latest numbers were around 600 breaks per year.
Wow.
And it's a similar number all around Canada, really.
Yeah, I mean, I always hear about, the infrastructure is breaking down, the pipes are old, but
yeah,
in terms of an actual number and what's required to fix it or prevent illness, it's remarkable how much we need to do. I mean, we do need these new tools to actually do so.
Yeah, exactly. And this is really it's called the paradox of developed nations, because these infrastructures have been there for so long, right? Mm-hmm. And now they're starting to crack, whereas for other, let's say, emerging nations, these infrastructures are still brand new, so they're not cracking. And yeah, the other thing too is that water infrastructure, like for drinking water, it's hidden, it's buried. So it's the kind of stuff that doesn't get a lot of attention from either the media or the politicians until it starts to break. And it's always a problem of who's going to pay for the taxes to actually fix the infrastructure. And that's why cities are interested by our IntelliPipe solution, because we identify exactly the set of pipes that they have to target instead of spending money kind of blindly on pipes and seeing that some other pipes could have been saved.
No, we wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
So just so I understand too, like, are you guys doing this all on your own, or like, I know there was a few institutes you mentioned before. Like, do you have partners in this, and how do you work together?
Yes, we have amazing partners. Actually, the Quebec ecosystem for innovation is incredible. We have Mila, as you mentioned. So these guys have been helping us with our AI slash deep learning slash unsupervised techniques. So every year we get 25 hours with them. We're very happy about that. We were also members of IVADO, which is the data science branch. I'd say similar to Mila, but more data science. And we're actually collaborating with professors both at McGill and at INRS that are helping us make sure that the algorithms that we're developing, the stats works, and also the civil engineering works. And the glue that allows all these partnerships to happen is NRC, IRAP, and MyTax. So the way it works is that they're even going to help you identify partners within the ecosystem to innovate with, and they're going to finance part of that innovation. That's pretty amazing.
That is a very, very cool intersection of people working together. And I suppose, there's combinations of universities, government funding, research agencies. That's pretty remarkable.
Yes.
That's all coming together. And a startup. That's cool. I know we don't have too much time left, but I wanted to just say, is there anything that you want to highlight? For example, like any recent events or any upcoming challenges? I would love to just sort of hear what's current for you.
We're starting to work with, see how we could work with private companies as well, because we've been B2G, B2 governments so far. So that's the one thing that's coming for us. But other than that, some interesting trends that I see in AI is the rise of interest towards explainable machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually something that we've been into since we've started, because you tell a municipality, well, close the beach tomorrow or replace this pipe next year, and they want to know why, because you can't just come up with a black box that says do this, do that, and they have to report to auditors. They have the public to report to. And so we've always tried to make sure that our algorithms were explainable, that you could actually ask the question why and have the process of why the model predicted a given outcome. But I'm starting to see that this is something that's coming up in a whole bunch of areas of machine learning now. So got the fact that some algorithms can be biased when they give you a loan or when they decide which health insurance you can get. So people are asking why. Politicians are asking what's happening with a lot of processes, because AI, we're starting to use AI more and more in our everyday decisions. And it's starting to have so much influence that explainable AI is going to be what every citizen is going to be expecting from the companies.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Is there anything in the next year or so in particular, like what's imminent for you?
Yeah, for us as a company, it's the birth of our algorithm that's called Down Up, but I can't tell much more about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Secret, top secret.
It's a secret sauce, but it's working so well that we've decided to give it a name, and we'll see how we can talk about it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, maybe in the future when you guys have put that out.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And then are you going to be hiring, or do you have any upcoming opportunities for people to join?
Unfortunately, until the end of the year, the team is full.
Okay.
But in 2021, we're going to be hiring again. So for those who would be interested to join us, just follow our LinkedIn page. So it's CANN Forecast, like forecasting. And we publish everything over there.
Okay, fantastic. That's great to hear. And last thing is, I think as a tech ecosystem in general, we're trying to engage more young women in math and data science. And you're a perfect example of someone who's not only studied that, but then gone on and started a venture based on your experience. Do you have any advice for other young women considering careers in STEM and specifically in AI?
Yeah, sure. For young women, it's just not to be scared of anything, because when you think about it, just in Quebec, actually a lot of the leaders in AI are women. So we have Joëlle Pinault doing our pre-cup. We just got Irina Rich. So it's not really like you can't make it. You can absolutely make it. And there are many, many examples of very successful AI leaders who are women. So I would say just go for it, because honestly, there's nothing that's going to hold you back. And really for anybody, young or old, I would say if you're interested in like learning more, maybe starts with a book like a tour of the calculus. So I'm going to talk to it a lot. But I think the reason why I got into all this is because I loved the topic. And sometimes math and data science are taught in a way that's dull.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get that angle where you realize how much fun it is and you start to love something, then there's nothing that's going to stop you.
That is pretty inspiring. I wish we had more time, but perhaps we can talk more in the future. Naysan, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
I'm really grateful to you. And also, again, to our sponsors, Microsoft Canada and Decinci. To all our listeners, remember to send us your questions, your feedback, any news to info@askai.org. Find us on Twitter. Thank you so much again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Ask AI podcast. The executive producer was Chris McClellan. Additional production support was provided by Olena Mack and Kristen Riddell. To learn more about our webinar and chatbot projects and get information about sponsorships and volunteering, please visit our website at askai.org or email info@askai.org. Listeners can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just search Ask AI.